Hey guys, Alegre-Wood here, author of the 3+1 Plan and chairman of YPC Group, where we help you to build a thriving property portfolio so you can live the lifestyle you've always dreamed of, but in such a way that you're not creating a second job or actually working yourself into an early grave. So what I wanted to do today was we've been running the webinars now for a while, and we've compiled hundreds of questions that you guys have been asking. So I want to take those, and what I've done is I've broken them down into a number of really key questions that most of you guys are repeatedly asking. And what I've done is I want to present them to you so you get that level of education. I've always been a massive supporter of free education. And so that's what I want to do for you guys today, is really give you, I guess, what most people out there are concerned about in the market now, about property investment, about strategies, about structures, about all sorts of things, the questions that you guys have been asking. So, it's not now me telling you what you should be thinking, it's you guys actually feeding back. And I love that about the social media, and I love that about webinars. So yeah, sit back, relax, and let's get started. So today we're going to look at mortgage repayment methods. Interest only, repayment, principal interest. Which one is better? Which one should you choose? And I guess get a sense for what are your options on there. I think for far too long, people don't really understand the implications of the two different methods of repaying. And there's actually a third one that I'll introduce as well, which is probably my preferred method for doing it. Not so much for my buy-to-lets, but certainly on my home. And I'll explain why very soon. So before I start, I've got to say this. It doesn't matter what you and I think about, or we might want to do interest only or repayment. It doesn't really matter, because what's actually happening right now is that the FSA and various other, in the UK, but also in a lot of areas around the world, a lot of countries around the world, are forcing people into repayment or principal and interest. They don't want you taking interest-only mortgages. And the reason is because they see that they're the dangerous ones. They're the ones that actually have caused all the problems. It's a load of rubbish, to be fair. I mean, what they're trying to do is get you to pay more of your income, so you get less income, less flex, or if you like, ability to do stuff with what's called disposable income. So first, the first point is that the government is actually regulating you and restricting you from having the freedom of how to spend your money. Okay, so that's the first thing. And is there a lot you can do about it? Not really. Become wealthy, because wealthy people have got more choices always. Okay. The other side is the fear of debt, because I think this is the biggest thing that restricts people in their thinking. We're brought up from a very young age that debt is bad, to fear it, and really it's unfortunate, because consumer debt, okay, or non-investment debt, stuff when you go out and spend on your credit card and you buy clothes and stuff like that, go on holidays that aren't paid for cash, those sort of things, that's bad debt. And I agree with that, that's bad. But investment debt is something altogether different. And there's not really a single person that I know personally that has actually built up a substantial portfolio without facing this fear, and in actual fact, not only facing the fear, but embracing debt, okay? I mean, I use it in my own portfolio. I'm not mortgage free. I've got a couple of properties that are mortgage free, but to be fair, most of my properties have mortgages on them. Why? Because that's one of the core, key things that makes property great. So why wouldn't you, when you understand debt and when you understand cash flow and when you understand interest rates and those things, use that to your advantage, because it gives you a massive advantage over someone who's saving. Okay, so let's have a look at the three different types, and I'll go through the first two and then I'll explain the third one. The first is interest only. So if we're looking at a 25-year mortgage, okay, you're going to start with 100 grand and you're going to end with 100 grand, okay? Interest only, you're just paying the interest portion but not any repayment. So you're still going to owe exactly the same as you will in 25 years, okay? So there's nothing paid off. Repayment or principal and interest, you'll actually pay the interest each month, okay, as well as a portion of the repayment or principal, okay? Now, what that means is that when you're first starting off, it may be that, assuming the interest rate stays the same, you pay exactly the same amount every month. But what you'll find is you'll pay a little bit of the principal and a big bit of the interest. As it goes on, what actually happens is you pay more principal, less interest. The repayment would stay the same unless the interest rate changes. Obviously, interest rate goes up, your payment is going to go more, your interest part is going to be more, your repayment is going to be less. Now, this is what people I do, or this is what they're pushing us to do now, okay? This is what traditionally we've done with our investment properties, okay? Because it makes so much more sense, and I'll explain why very soon. The third option, and this is the option that I much prefer on your home, is putting what we call an offset, a line of credit, or an all-in-one. They've got different names. They all essentially mean around about the same thing, okay? An offset is simply where you've got your mortgage here attached to your house, but then what you've got is a current account, and the money that in that account offsets against that account, all right? A line of credit, very similar thing. It's got one, they're all in one, and effectively the money in this, okay, offsets the money you owe there, and you only pay interest on the balance. And same with all-in-one, okay? They're all essentially the same thing. They might have different accounts and slightly different structures. They achieve the same thing. The idea with this is that whereas this is going to 25 years, you're going to still remain £100,000. This is going to pay it off to zero in 25 years, but your repayments are going to be higher, okay? This here is a sneaky and, well, it's not sneaky, it's a very smart way of doing things. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a credit card. You're going to spend with a credit card. You're going to you pay up your credit card each month, or so spend up, and then pay it off. And where you'll sweep the money from is your mortgage. And what that means is your cash is staying in your mortgage for longer, and because of that, it's dropping the balance that you owe. You're paying less interest. Over a period of a 25-year mortgage, you can actually, and using this and paying all your wages into this and using this correctly, within 7 to 14 years, okay, you can pay that off to zero. So it's a tremendously fantastic way of doing it. Now, the issue is this. As you start to pay this down, you can then access the money. Now, what that means is it can be like a giant credit card. So rather than paying it off to zero, what often happens is as you're paying it down, you get a bit of equity, you redraw that equity and spend it on whatever. So you end up with the £100,000 mortgage, at the end, but you haven't actually paid any off. So you've got to be disciplined with this. And when I used to run my mortgage company in Australia, literally 50% of what we did was putting people into these. The other 50% was taking people who'd been in these that were undisciplined and putting them back into something like one of these, okay? So for this, you've got to be disciplined. I'll do another video specifically on how to use these and the intricacies of how to do it, because it is such a fantastic tool if you can do it. Now, there's not a lot of choice here, and you're going to be paying a higher interest rate. So you've got to make sure that if you're going to do this and use it, that you use it correctly so that you get the benefit of that. Otherwise, it just becomes a more expensive, repayment mortgage or interest-only mortgage worse, okay? Now, what I wanted to look at here, because at the end of the day, which is better to use? Well, obviously I say this is better, but when you're talking about your investment properties, I actually say interest only, because debt is my friend, okay? Investment debt is my friend, and I use it to my advantage. I use it to make me many thousands of pounds, okay? And you can do this too. But what we're going to look at is, first of all, right now, if you're doing an interest only, which is what I recommend on your investment properties, even though the government and the FSAs and all these peoples are saying, no, you can't do that, that you've got to have an investment vehicle to pay off. So even though you're paying interest here, they still want to see what would have been the extra payment over here going into an investment vehicle to pay it off. It could be shares, it could be a range of things, okay? It could be a buy-to-let property that you own, okay? Now, the point is here that you need this investment vehicle. Assuming that you've got that and you get the mortgage and you've got an interest only, great. Because the reason I love interest only on your investments is this: inflation. Inflation is your friend. Inflation is here to stay. Whether you like it or not, we live in an inflationary society, okay? Prices are continuously going up, okay? Things are getting more expensive. Now, I want to illustrate this. Even though today you owe £100,000, which is a lot of money, okay? If we go ahead 25 years, how much is £100,000 going to be? It's probably, well, it's still going to be £100,000. But if you look at what £100,000 buys, it's going to be a hell of a lot less because of the effects of inflation. So if you hold this over a long period of time, inflation will pay down your debt for you. And that is one of the core things that you'll keep hearing me say and you'll keep hearing me articulate, because it's such an exciting thing that property allows you to do. If you've got cash in the bank, inflation is your biggest enemy, because even though you might be making 3% against that, if inflation is running at 5, you're at -2, okay? Now, the point here is if you've got debt, That goes down to there. Now, let's have a look at this, because you might sit there and go, no, Brett, I don't see how prices can keep going up, and all these sort of things that people throw at me regularly. Okay, so if you think about it, all right, 100,000 now, 100,000 in 25 years, okay, it's still going to be 100,000. Now, if you think about it, what was the average age, what is the average wage now? It's actually, in 2011, it's £456 per week, okay? That's the average wage. Now, obviously, I realise some people are making significantly lower than that. Some people are making significantly more. But that is the average wage right now. If we go back just 11 years to the year 2000, the average wage was £200 per week. Okay, so the average wage has actually doubled and a bit more in 11 years. Okay, so now the question is, if that's happened, do you have a better lifestyle now in 2011 than 2000? Probably not much. I mean, yeah, you might have a better mobile phone, a bigger TV, those sort of things. But in actual fact, if you look at what 456 buys today, it's probably around the same that it bought for £200 back in 2000. Now, if we take that same thinking and we say in 11 years' time in 2022, okay, so 456, multiply that by 2, 912, okay? So what we'll do, our average wage will probably be 912. Now, if we do this with this, in 11 years, okay, that 100,000 has already decreased in value. And by the time we do 25 years, you can forget about it. If you think about what your current mortgage is now, what your current property is worth, and then go back 25 years, okay, and I realise you might be moving in with your parents at that stage, but if you look at what your parents' house was, and then think if you had have just taken a mortgage on that property now and just held on to it for that period, that mortgage would probably be £2,000 or £3,000, which for some people is a month's wage. Whereas back then, it was probably a whole year's wage, okay? That's the effect of inflation. Inflation is your friend if you use it, okay? Debt, you know, you've got to get rid of that fear of debt and realize that when you embrace debt, use it to your advantage, actually it can create amazing things. There's so many simple things that you can do to make money in property. Use debt, use inflation, use an offset or line of credit. You know, they're just 3 simple things. Yeah, and look, 2 of them are just about changing this, understanding something differently. This is about doing something differently. And a lot of what I'm going to teach you and a lot of what you're going to learn about property is not about what you have to go and do. It's not about going out and seeing estate agents, negotiating deals. It's about changing the way you think. And that's what I really want to get across to you. Change the way you think about a lot of things, because these myths and the guru BS and hype, has got it wrong. And you've got to change and rewire your brain to start thinking wealthy, to start thinking success. So guys, I'm sure you found that information really valuable. The first step really now is that you need to get a plan. You need to actually, work out exactly how you're going to put this in place. So what I encourage you to do is come in and sit down with us, talk to us, grab a coffee with us. And what we can do is we can actually start mapping out what your plan is. Guys, I'm looking forward to meeting you real soon at either one of our webinars or perhaps a seminar, or if you come to one of our offices around the world. Have a great day, and remember, live with passion.